They ain't know what the data. They ain't know what the data.
I want to start off talking about disease X. I don't know if you guys heard of this. This is coming out of the WHO. What is that? The World Health Organization. Disease X. See, they're planning for another pandemic, but they trying to play stupid. They're trying to play stupid. So apparently, the World Health Organization Director General Tedros something has called on countries to sign on to a health organization's pandemic treaty so the world can prepare for disease X. But I want to know, what exactly is disease X? Yeah, I go that way. What is disease X? So he was part of the World Economic Forum that took place last week. And, he said he hoped countries will reach a pandemic agreement by May to address this common enemy. Disease X is a hypothetical placeholder virus that has not yet been formed, but scientists say it could be 20 times deadlier than COVID-19. It was added to the WHO's short list of pathogens for research in 2017 that could cause a serious international epidemic, according to the 2022 WHO press release. Well, if it's called disease X because it's a hypothetical placeholder, how do you know it's going to be 20 times deadlier than COVID-19? See, COVID-19 wasn't disease X. It was in a lab that either got stolen or however it got out. If it's the unknown, how do you know it's deadly or 20 times more deadlier than COVID? So he goes on to say this includes enhancing international cooperation to improve, for example, alert system, data sharing, research, local and regional and global production, distribution of medical and public health countermeasures, such as vaccines, medicines, diagnostics, and personal protection equipment. None of this mentions preventive health care. It doesn't. Now, the Biden administration was negotiating the global pandemic treaty last year. The GOP critics have said that such an agreement would cede sovereignty to the WHO. Bingo. Because we should not have a health organization superseding our constitution here or our government. We should not be beholden to a health organization, World Health Organization called the WHO. Diagnostic and personal protective equipment, vaccines, medicines. This is their reaction or their counteraction to disease X, the unknown that they claim is 20 times more deadlier. Nothing about preventive health, healthy foods, easy access to health care, alternative therapies. Nothing about that. Washing hands, disinfected, ways to decrease diseases. Nothing about that. It's all about treating the symptom, not the disease that apparently they don't know what it is. And the GOP is pushing back against the Biden administration because they don't want the United States to cede sovereignty to the WHO. In other words, signing on to this global pandemic treaty will allow the WHO to dictate if we go outside, mandatory vaccines, limiting our travel or controlling our travel, all that stuff that was going on during 2020. So this is serious. They are planning again to take world control by way of health organization, the World Health Organization. How can you call something X, the unknown, but say it's going to be more deadlier than COVID? Then you should know what you're dealing with. It's not X. You know what it is, allegedly. So I want to play Robert F. Kennedy Jr. He's running for presidency as an independent. He was not on the New Hampshire ballot. But he had, he continued to have a lot to say when it comes to our health organizations, whether it's the CDC or the NIH or even the WHO. So I'm going to play this video. It's about 5 minutes.
That is now debilitated 60% of our young people. We have the highest chronic disease rate of any people on earth, any people in history. Why is that? Why does America have the highest? Why do we have the highest level of neurological disease? ADD, ADHD, speech delay, language delay, tics, Tourette syndrome, ASD, and autism. We know, when I was a kid, we didn't know about any of these things. I had 11 siblings, about 70 first cousins. I didn't know autism rates in my generation today. I was 70 yesterday, and 70-year-old in 70-year-old men, the autism rate today is 1 in 10,000. This is for full-blown autism, which means non-verbal, non-toilet trained, head banging, stimming, toe walking, hand flapping, all the stereotypical behavior. 1 in 10,000. And my kids' generation is 1 in every 34 kids. Why is nobody asking what happened? Why isn't NIH, why is not that the epidemic, the pandemic that we're worried about?
Let me pause it right there because he made a good point. Nobody isn't asking the right questions. Why, how, prevention. Because that is a serious increase in autism. 1 in 10,000 now is 1 in 34. And you mean to tell me we're not asking the question of why or how? How can we prevent this? Why is this happening? Only thing that is happening is that we're creating different types of medication for different types of autism.
I never heard of juvenile diabetes. I never heard of rheumatoid arthritis. I never heard of Crohn's disease or lupus or all these autoimmune diseases that began around 1989. I never knew anybody with a peanut allergy. There was nobody that I ever met had a peanut allergy as a kid. Why do 5 of my 7 kids have allergies? Why isn't anybody telling us why this is happening? What happened? Why did obesity go from when my uncle was president to 13% to 42% of our kids today and 75% overweight? Did American kids suddenly get lazy? I don't think so. We're mass poisoning them. And somebody ought to be telling us which of those poisons it is. It's a narrow. Congress said to EPA, tell us what year the autism epidemic began. EPA is a captive agency, but it's captured by oil, coal, big agriculture, big chemical companies, not by pharma, because it doesn't regulate pharma. So it actually came back with a real scientific study, and they said it's a red line, 1989. That's the year it started. Why aren't we looking what happened in 1989? What changed? And it's probably a bunch of things, because a bunch of things happen on that timeline. There's a very famous scientist, toxicologist in New York, who I've used on many of my cases, named Phil Landrigan. And he's actually looked at this and said, yeah, that timeline, there's only about 13 things. There's glyphosate from Roundup, neonicotinoid pesticides. There's atrazine, which is in 63% of our water. There's high fructose corn syrup. There's PFOAs and PFASs, the forever chemicals that would.
Now, mind you, listen, all these chemicals, one thing about Robert F. Kennedy Jr., he is heavily involved and has been for some time when it comes to our health system here. When it comes to vaccine, he is not anti-vaccine, neither am I. But, how it's administrated is a problem. But all of these chemicals he's naming, trust me, I don't know exactly what they're using. Roundup, I do know, is used in the fertilizer, when we're talking about mass farming of our fruits and vegetables and stuff like that. But when he mentioned the allergies, both of my kids had severe allergies. My son is he's allergic to peanuts. He's allergic to a lot of things. Both my kids have eczema. I have eczema. So it seemed like as each generation, go forward, the more health issues we are having. It's getting worse for each generation. If you look at Gen Zs now, a lot of them are unhealthy, whether they're on drugs or drinking. Outside of that, you have to understand, and he pinpointed 1989 with, a red line started in 1989, and research is very important. Well, what also happened in the 80s, especially the late 80s, it's also a red straight line of fast food restaurants explosion. Because you look at 1989 fast food restaurants, and today in 2024, and a number of different fast food restaurants that we have now, and they make it easy for us to eat out, Uber Eats, DoorDash or whatever. So a lot of people are eating fast foods, which is like pre-prepared with all types of chemicals in it. My internalist doctor from New Jersey, he mentioned to me, listen, I'm 47, but at 45, he was like, okay, it's time for you to get a colonoscopy. I said, but I'm not even 50 yet. He was like, well, actually, doctors now are referring their patients to get colonoscopy at 35, because a lot of young people are getting colon cancer or even prostate cancer. And I'm like, why is that? He was like, well, we're starting to see a trajectory, a parallel of fast food chains expanding and colon cancer. So there is some type of connection there when we look at the way we eat here in America.
Putting all of our kids' pajamas and all of our furniture on that timeline. There's cell phone radiation. I just won a big case on that in front of FCC. It's a limited universe. It's an easy thing to study. Why isn't it being studied? We had the highest death rate during COVID of any country in the world, the highest body count. We had 12% of the COVID deaths in our country, but we only have 4.2% of the population. Why are people getting awards for the manner? We literally had the worst record of any country in the world. And when CDC is asked to explain this, they don't want to say, oh, we mismanaged it. So what do they say? They say that's because we have the highest chronic disease burden in the world. The average American who died from COVID had 3.8 chronic diseases. They had maybe asthma and diabetes and obesity and one other thing. But it doesn't ask the next obvious question, why? Why are we, which has the best healthcare system, the most abundant food, richest country in the history of the world, why are we the sickest? Why is nobody, the people
Great question. Why are we the sickest? Why?
from COVID, virtually 100% of the people who died from COVID died in the hospital, and they had 3.8 chronic diseases. So, COVID, the chronic disease brought them to the edge of the cliff and hanging there, and COVID came and stomped on their fingernails. But they were already on their way out. And why aren't we asking what got them to the top of that cliff?
That's the end of that clip. And I wanted to play this clip all the way through because it's very informative for us to start asking the question of why. And that is true. A lot of people, majority of the people who died from COVID-19, God rest their souls, had a pre-existing condition, had some type of chronic condition already there. So COVID, like he said, just came and stopped on their hands while they're trying to hold on the edge of the cliff, and that was it. But why do you have this chronic condition? Why are we so sick here in America? No, and I'm in the healthcare system. This is the industry that is never going to go out of business. Mental health is under the healthcare system. It's never going to go out of business. It's not. I'm always going to make money in the healthcare industry. That's my specialty. So, but, we do have a problem. We do have a problem.
Dana with the data. Dana with the data.